Greetings, everybody. Welcome to your video series on an introduction to sociology. Today's topic, norms. Let's get started. So what do we mean by cultural norms? Norms are the accepted or expected ways of behaving in a particular culture. All cultures have their own unique set of norms. Some may be shared across cultures. Some may be unique to each individual culture. For example, let's say someone sneezes. What's going to happen next? You got it. Someone's going to say, bless you. And what happens if no one says bless you in our culture? Well, things get a little weird for a few seconds, right? And the person who sneezed is thinking, is anyone going to say bless you? And everybody around is thinking, is somebody else going to say it? Should I say it? Everything gets really weird. And then everybody's like, well, I can't say it now because it's too late. And so we just sort of move on, right? And that's what we mean by norms, these things that we expect to happen in terms of our human behavior. And if they don't happen, we feel a little off-centered. Now, there are three types of norms, according to sociology. We have folkways, which are the casual etiquette types of norms, such as we just discussed. Saying bless you when someone sneezes would be a folkway. We have mores, that's pronounced mores, M-O-R-E-S. Those are more formal types of norms. They also include all of our laws. If you violate a more, there will be some kind of consequence. Obviously, if you break a law, there will be some sort of consequence, either monetary fines or jail sentencing. Not all mores are laws, however. We'll talk about some examples of mores that are not necessarily a law, but if you violate them or break them in some way, there will be some kind of consequence, even if it's something like a dirty look or somebody shuns you or stigmatizes you or suddenly doesn't want to be your friend or live in the same neighborhood as you do. And then we move on to taboos. Taboos are the things that society has zero tolerance for. And surprisingly, there are very few taboos in our culture and in most cultures. There are a few, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. Actually, let's talk about them now. What are some taboos? What are some things that we have zero tolerance for in our society? If you're thinking things like murder or sexual assault, those are not really taboos because they happen far too often. They're far too common. Lots of people often think or entertain the idea of these kinds of behaviors. So they certainly are mores. There will be consequences if you engage in that kind of behavior, but there really isn't a zero tolerance. When we say zero tolerance, we're talking about things like cannibalism, bestiality are two good examples of taboos. Most people are not even thinking about these things. They occur with very little frequency. And of course, if they do, we are extricating that person from our society. So let's talk about some examples of what might be folkways or mores in our society. And as we go through this list, think about how things have changed over the years in terms of whether something is more serious today than it was in the past or less serious today than it was in the past. So let's start with DUI, drunk driving or driving under the influence. Would you say this is a folkway, more, or taboo? Well, if you said more, you are correct. Obviously, if you get caught driving under the influence, there are severe consequences and penalties. And this is something that has gotten more serious in our society over time. In the past, say 60, 70 years ago, drunk driving was, it was kind of a big deal, but not near the big deal it is today. Today, we really have decided that this is something we do not want to be a part of our society as much as we can control it. And so we have very stiff penalties for anyone caught with a DUI. How about the issue of teen pregnancy? Folkway, not a big deal. Moray, a big deal. Or taboo, zero tolerance. This is an interesting one, right? This has actually become less serious of an infraction in our society over the years. It may be a big deal in your family at the micro level, but at the macro level, we have moved away from shunning young girls who are pregnant to trying to find ways to help both the parents, both the mother and the father, if they are teens, be able to cope with their pregnancy or get involved with Planned Parenthood. Many of our high schools in our country today have daycare centers in them to help teens who have children. So whereas in the past, this was a much more serious moray type infraction, today it is more of a folkway or less serious. We still would prefer that teens not be having kids, but we're far less likely to punish them in ways that we did in the past. How about the issue of marriage equality, same-sex marriage? This is another example of a norm that has changed rapidly over the last decade or so. This is far less serious today. The Supreme Court ruled in 2015 that same-sex couples do have the right to get married in the same way with the same privileges as opposite-sex couples. So this has moved from really a taboo many, many years ago to a moray, illegal, to far less serious and much more acceptable today. What about the issue of cigarette smoking? Folkway, taboo, or moray? This is an interesting in terms of how it has changed in our culture. This one has actually become more of a serious infraction. There are far less places to smoke today than there were many years ago, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Most public places have now restricted smoking in terms of office buildings, airplanes, elevators, restaurants, bars. There are even rules against smoking within certain feet of a building. Even some public beaches have outlawed smoking. So it's still legal if you're of age. You can still smoke in your home. You can smoke in designated areas. But this has moved far from a folkway, no big deal, into a moray, a very big deal. Let's compare that with marijuana. This one has gone the other direction, right? To far less serious than in the past. It still remains a federal offense at the federal level, but many states, including here in New Mexico, have legalized marijuana for recreational use, and many, many more states have legal marijuana for medicinal purposes only. So this one has gone from really a moray, serious infraction many years ago, today to much less of a big deal, and again, legal in many areas of the country. So that's going to do it for now. Thanks for checking in. Never stop learning, and remember, sociology